Hello and welcome back. Today I'm sharing with you another of my coastal beach vlogs where I go out looking for things to use in my painting on my local beach. I'm lucky enough to live about 500 yards from the beach, and today I decided I wanted to try to make an ink pen out of a feather, and so that was what was on my mind, along with, of course, collecting anything else interesting that I saw along the way. Whenever I'm beachcombing, I can never resist pieces of beautiful, softly worn, seafoam coloured sea glass and iridescent shells and rocks seamed with crystals. A couple of interesting feathers too. That barred one, it's either a seagull feather or possibly a sparrowhawk feather. We're not quite sure, but I got a really nice gull feather that I think will make a perfect pen. Well, I'm now back in the studio, and as you can see, I've had a really great time collecting and beachcombing on the beach, and I've got some beautiful things, but also potentially some very useful things. I think this piece of driftwood would make a really nice stick pen if I just sharpen either of the ends, or maybe even both of the ends. I can dip that into ink. And I found this really interesting fish spine bone. It's quite a large piece, but it's almost pen-shaped. Maybe that could work as a pen for line and wash. Perhaps I'll try that in another video. But for today, my sort of prize find is this large gull feather. I'm assuming that it's from a herring gull or maybe a black-backed gull. Those are the two species that we get the most of near to where I live. And I'm going to see if I can make a quill pen from it by carving the tip into a nib that I can then use with ink. Please do accept my apologies. I forgot to put the camera on when I was carving the nib shape, but it's simply a matter of just snipping off the bottom, pulling out any fibrous material inside the quill, and then carefully shaping the quill to a point and putting in a sort of a split up the nib, which will then act as an ink reservoir. So let's try it out on a piece of scrap paper. It's very comfortable in the hand. It feels great actually using such an old-fashioned traditional writing tool. And I can get all kinds of different marks, which is what I was looking for. Really fine marks, but it'll give me nice thick flowing marks as well. Changing up the line weight in ink drawings is what helps to give them a really nice expressive quality, and that's the sort of thing that I'm looking for and that I was hoping for. So it's working really nicely. Now I'm going to try it out in a line and wash painting of a winter tree. So for this I've gone online and taken a look at a few different trees so that I know the kind of thing that I want to draw. So I can draw from my imagination, but based on the research that I've just done. I'm using smooth hot press watercolour paper for this. I like the way ink pens flow much more freely across the smooth surface of hot press watercolour paper, and this is Saunders Waterford hot press watercolour paper, £140 weight or 300 GSM. And I've got it taped to my board, and my board's at an angle of about 20 to 30 degrees. I'm using black waterproof Sennelier Chinese ink. I want it to dry waterproof because I intend to paint over it with watercolour to create a background. I'm just using the palette knife now to drag through the wet ink. That pulls out a few lines of ink in a slightly different way, making different marks to those marks that I've been making with the feather pen. And to say I'm pleased with it is an understatement. I really like the marks that it's made. It felt really good in the hand and the ink flowed beautifully. I left it to dry completely, and now I'm going to use my large wash brush, which is a 1.5 inch Princeton Aqua Elite Mottler brush, to wet the page all over. And then I'm just going to create a moody, murky winter sky using colours that I love mixed together to produce these kind of browny grey neutral colours and to build up atmosphere behind this winter tree. I'll be using a water spray to get the paint to flow, and I'm not shy about dashing on these really bold brush strokes across the sky because I want plenty of paint there so that it won't completely dilute and become too pale when I spray it with my water spray, in order to get the paint to move around on the board as I tip and tilt it to create this atmospheric background. My colours today are a mixture of Payne's Grey, Indigo, Raw Umber, Burnt Sienna. I've laid my board flat because I don't want the washes to run anymore, and I'm sorry I forgot to push the board up, as I'm now putting in some foreground just roughly with some of the same colours that I've used for the sky and a bit of midground, some misty midground trees. There we are, that's better. You can just see I've just dashed in some paint across behind the tree, about 1/3 of the way up. And it's a richer, drier application of paint which is holding its own on the wet wash, but still softly diffusing and will give me that misty, distant tree line. And I'm now using my palette knife to scrape through the damp paint, and I'm creating grasses and weeds and brambles all growing up around the base of this tree. I'm scraping through and it's revealing the paper beneath, trying to keep these lines quite kind of free and expressive. I'm just about finished, but just before the paint dries, I've got some ordinary fine ground table salt and I'm going to sprinkle some into the damp paint in the foreground. It's important that the paint isn't too wet or too dry, otherwise you won't get the effects of these tiny little blossoms that I've got here. You can see that I've got added texture and really pretty patterns from the salt in the foreground. I've just used a dry brush to brush off any salt crystals that are remaining, and I'm going to remove the tape and have a look at it and see how it looks. And here it is with its clean white border. And let's just zoom in and have a look at that ink application from the feather pen. And I'm really pleased with the marks. I think they go really nicely with watercolour. I really like the loose expressive quality that I get to my lines when I use a pen that's so simple but so effective as the feather pen. And I really like the pretty salt grain effects and this overall murky wash, which is so atmospheric and really does, for me, evoke a winter day. Well, I hope you enjoyed this vlog style video and that It might give you the inspiration to go out and see what you can find. See if you can find any feathers. Because after all, this pen that I used that's made such wonderful marks was completely free. It just came from something that I found and repurposed. And that makes me really happy. If you enjoyed the video, then please leave us a comment and click on the thumbs up button. And if you aren't already subscribed, I'd invite you to subscribe to the channel here. It's free to do and it really helps with our reach. And thank you so much to everybody that supports us on Patreon. We really do appreciate you. And I'll see you again soon. Take care and happy painting. Bye.